Now we have the next session coming from Dr. Ravindra Dastikop, Assistant Professor, SDM College of Engineering and Technology. And he's going to speak on building a private cloud using open source.
Time, and also teach you, I'll show you how I've been using cloud computing in all the aspects. And today's presentation will talk about the power of cloud computing and the consequent power of private cloud and how to build that. Technologically speaking, building a private cloud using two LANs would take approximately half an hour. So that I will try to do in the end of the presentation. But before that, I would like to make you a convincing regarding why this cloud is all about and how it is revolutionary both in nature and aspect, and how it's going to change everything that we have been doing so far. One of the last message from the last speaker was that things are not new, but the way of looking them must be new to derive actually the full benefit of that. So most of the thinking about cloud computing is happening that they are seeing it as an extension of existing technology so that actually you can take an advantage. But that's not the way. The cloud computing gives you a kind of a power which nobody has given you in the past. And that power people are not realizing because they are looking from the old lenses. Okay, so to realize that power, actually as you saw in my presentation, I will tell you. So once you start looking at that, and then it gives you a kind of a power which enables you to do certain things which nobody has done in the past. So as you can see, this cloud is such a powerful thing. Unlike other presenters, I didn't come out with my laptop here. Nor unlike others, I brought my pen drive. I directly went to my blog and started my presentation. So this is essentially power of cloud computing. So cloud computing for the first time has given you a kind of a liberty, and if you start realizing this liberty, you can not only do a kind of a thing like you can also start a company without owning assets, create value without owning networks, write books without having a printing press, that kind of a thing. So as my presentation tells you, see, cloud computing is something which is so worldwide and so spreading actually. It like our network, Vodafone dog, it follows you everywhere, but it also takes you over without actually applying roaming charges to you. Okay, so that's the power. So let me start with the presentation. In this presentation, I have only one single point agenda. The agenda is to enlighten the audience on the power and potential of private cloud and its value proposition. So it's a very strong one actually. So I will just tell you what is meaning and need for private cloud, why somebody should be considering this one, and what are the open resources which are available. See, today we are living in such a kind of a world that many things are available which is works of other brains which you can directly use. In my cloud computing classes, I tell my students, today it is possible to download everything from the internet except money. Right? So that, but having said that, there are many resources on the net which actually download and create value and sell money, create money out of that. Okay, so that is the power and potential. So we are living in a kind of a most connected, most charitable, most flourishing time of the world. So that also I'll talk about open source. And finally, if at all you want to decide to build, what are the hardware requirements which are needed for that. So the fundamental value proposition of cloud should be realized before you actually start harnessing that. See, the idea of cloud is not technology, not architecture, it is the organizing principle. So that means how do you organize your IT space? IT space means IT infrastructure. So that is the central point of that. So far the idea has been actually to buy your design your architecture, buy them, own them, and then actually start using that. So the separation is the idea of cloud computing. Cloud computing, what it says this, you can do a work without owning a machine. You can run a program without your data. You can use your data without, run a program when your program is not yours. So it separates activity from the ownership and value creation from the assets. So that's the fundamental idea. So this is not to human society. Human society actually has always flourished to a broader extent whenever it has found a new organizing principle. For example, before the invention of book, the organizing principle of any knowledge was actually memory, rote memory. That means you should by heart that and keep it to your heart. But the moment the book came, actually information as an organizing principle, or a book and organizing principle, created everything in the rest of the history. For example, today university is not possible without a book. Right. So when book came as an organizing principle, it created a revolution. So that is the idea. Similarly, IT space is being actually re-architectured well. Similarly, when actually factory was invented as a production unit, it created another revolution, because first time actually you liberated your limits from the human power, human muscle power. An engine was sitting there. Similarly, actually when telephone was invented, then it created a multinational corporation, because British, this East India Company and all, they used to run using only telephone. That means the organizing principle was not limited by geography then. It is something else. So whenever there is a power of this kind of a things comes, and when you use that power to organize your organization or your institution, that kind of gives a kind of a liberty which is going to be very powerful. Phones created, multinational corporations, books created, booking industry, like steam engine created, entirely a factory and assembly line kind of a thing. So once you realize this, then the very idea of cloud computing come into this. This newly liberated resource has been created a new kind of a industry. So the first meaning of cloud computing is actually availing services like this, that means Amazon, Gmail and all, which are globally run businesses whose office you don't know, but you can access them. For the first time you have a brands whose offices, head offices or branch offices you don't know, but you start using them. Okay. So the first one. So first meaning of cloud computing is actually availing these resources. So because of this, there is a fundamental change. See, for example, before cloud computing came, your business was linked to your IT. That means your ability to do a business dependent entirely on your IT resources. So that means if you want to scale, and that's the reason when, like for example, when Tehalka news was released, people started hitting that the whole website crashed. So that means your ability to reach actually is directly proportional to the infrastructure that you have, whether it's physical or anything. But with the invention of cloud computing, there is a fundamental change. See, you have a business here and you have an IT organization here. So you can scale up, scale down, depending on the resource that you need. And there are instances, many instances which show you. For example, probably you have known about this company, Instagram, which is recently bought by this. See, this company created an entire business without owning a single PC. And you know, it has only 6 employees who work for the company. And we all know that even a roadside tea shop will have 3 employees to make a business. Okay, so this is possible because this company completely exploited the power of cloud computing. That means you don't want to own asset to create value. Okay, so once you realize the point of this point, then everything rest will follow immediately. I think I am not getting this. Where did it go? Where did my presentation go? Okay, so this is a company. I mean, Facebook bought it for $1 billion. Okay, so what did you actually, all this does is actually every IT infrastructure for this company is subverted by somebody else, and they don't have a head office, they don't even have a physical office. Okay, so the idea is not that they made $1 billion. The idea is that today it is possible to create wonders without owning, and that is possible only because of cloud computing. Which one? Oh, sorry. Okay. Now how do I go now? Here? Okay, I'll be. Okay, so this, once you realize this, okay, and this is very tempting to use this kind of a technology within your organization also. So whatever you do, like this, info, Facebook, Google and all, they are actually harnessing the power of cloud computing to offer public services, hence they are called public clouds. Now it is possible, if you are a very big organization like KSRTC or Microsoft and all, it's possible to use those technologies back into your organization and start using to harness the power. So it is because of this reason, that means cloud gives you a kind of a thing, it is impossible for you to resist the temptation to get this kind of a technology back into your organization, and this is exactly what about cloud computing. But when I say this, there are certain subtle changes. The first question comes like this. See, why is that then if cloud computing is powerful and public, why companies cannot directly start using the public clouds? There are certain things, for example, in private cloud, there are some service level agreement between customers and the clients which cannot be implemented, it cannot be implemented at the global level. Similarly, there are certain things like the objective of Google is to make business, whereas the objective of a company which is being a private cloud is to optimize its resources. There are many resources which have been bought in the past which not been completely used. For example, one of the reasons why Amazon came into cloud computing business is actually they had lot of resources which they are not using, hence they wanted to convert a business proposal out of that. Okay, so that's the idea. But when I say that there are certain barriers, you cannot directly use public cloud for your business. For the same reason, you cannot use KSRTC for your public transportation. Company transportation needs different because there are people of different status, there are people coming in small numbers. Okay, so that means you use the same road, same buses, but you use it in a different way. So one reason is actually lot of desire to be think like, for example, the security issues is a big concern, and many things because people are still scared about putting their data into the public cloud and use it. But this is more of a psychological thing than actually anything else. For example, when 25 years back when banks started giving lockers, people were hesitant to put their money in banks and jewelries in bank because they did not want to trust that being banks and managers. Today you have to pay premium to get a locker. What's the reason? Banks have not changed, but perception about the security of bank has changed. Something similar is actually happening on Google, other kind of a thing, where security standards of every big company is great enough. And as I tell my students, like, see, it's unlikely that some robber will come and only steal your part of the money in a bank locker. It's very unlikely. And any time that actually happens, bank will take double care because that would be the reputation of that bank. Similarly, it's unlikely that Google or Facebook will take less care of your data for security reasons. It will take same care which it will take for the other things. But it takes time, about 10 to 15 years before people will start trusting the way people have trusted banks now. Okay. So the second meaning of cloud computing is actually to building an architecture and technology for your organization so that actually you can start using cloud in your organization. So what is a cloud? Private cloud. Private cloud is nothing but a smaller version of a cloud which uses virtualization and distributed computing to serve your requirements. So this is how it looks like. See, is a cloud that you have built for your organization. It is as good as any public cloud, except that there is a wall which will prevent. Why does it prevent? Because you have a certain kind of a security restrictions which you don't want it to be shared with the rest of the public. So except for the firewall, everything is same and identical. Okay. And why do companies build a private cloud? Because to harness their existing resources and to do get benefit out of that. Okay, so private cloud is essentially a job of actually building a private cloud stricter policies, for example, between two customers, clients and all. So very recently I had actually, I'm also a placement officer in my college. So one particular company has visited for campus hiring team. So at one moment of time, one of the employee wanted actually to get a printout from his machine. For that you have to insert a pen drive. The moment he inserted a pen drive, a message was sent to his higher up saying that he has inserted a pen drive. So that is a level of security concern in IT organizations. Right. So for that reason actually, to implement that which is not possible on the cloud, people may build their own private cloud and start implementing them. So when you do a private cloud, then you have to build an entire differently structure. It is not like making a kind of a decorations to existing system. You have to think it differently and do that one. Okay. So when this actually happens, this is what you get. The private cloud will reside in your premise. That means one of the value proposition of cloud computing is that don't own anything, whereas in private cloud you have to own on your own premise and you have to build a data center, and it will give you a complete control for the IT managers. How do I know IT managers? That means those people will know what is available and that kind of a thing. And security measures also you can implement. For example, this user will use only this machine. This machine cannot be put in a pen drive. That kind of a thing. Okay. And it automates the workflow. That is exactly the value proposition. See, if you involve a human intervention, then it's not cloud computing. And what West believes is that if you can do something 3 times, it must be automated. Okay, so everything in cloud computing can be automated, and to the extent that you automate, you achieve cloud computing benefits. So how do I know whether I have a private cloud in my organization? It is like, see, if I can fill a form and get a IT resource as a service without manual operation, that means you have a private cloud in your organization. And people working in big companies know that it should be as simple as actually booking a cab. Okay, so booking a cab is almost automated. If it is possible to do a book an IT resource the way you are doing for a cab, then you have a private cloud in your organization. But you know today it is not that. It takes at least a week, 10 days or 15 days before actually you indent a resource and get that, for whatever the reason that is available. And as far as IT resources are concerned, companies are not doing a good job either in terms of organizing or accessing or giving resources to that. Very recently I visited one of the top 8 companies for a presentation. My presentation venue was shifted from 3rd floor to 7th floor, but there are certain restrictions are imposed that you cannot open your presentation because that employee had an access only in the 3rd floor. Okay, so that kind of things do happen. So if that is the thing, probably cloud computing may not work. Okay, so couple of reasons why private organizations want it. They have different operating systems, they have third-party resources and all to integrate. You have to have a different platform where actually virtualization will come into picture. No matter what resource you have, actually you can be translated and connected to a particular resource below that, and you can get a kind of a seamless integration. So now that I have told you the idea of private cloud computing, then I have to tell you how to go about that. So today cloud technologies are largely proprietary. That means if you want to Microsoft Azure, it belongs to Microsoft, and if you want to Google App Engine, it belongs to that company, and if you want AWS, then it belongs to a particular company. So there is no, global level cloud computing technology which is non-proprietary. So if you want to develop your own, then you have to have a kind of a technical expertise in that. Secondly, building need open source technology. Open source, I told you, one of the saying in West is actually, if somebody can do your job, get it done. So the Indian tradition is also to only to you do the job and not give it out for whatever the reason that you want. Okay, so open source is a kind of a replacement technology which is as good as any proprietary technology. With small tweaking, you can actually achieve a lot scale of benefits. So one of the which is available is actually OpenStack or OpenNebula, and proprietary solutions are this. And if you don't want any of the solutions, actually you can directly go to this one, and it seems to be working well. So in order to make a preparation for cloud computing to be useful, and you must automate as many capacity as possible. That means allotting, and I normally give the example of this cab. So it takes less than 10 minutes to book a cab, but it is not possible to book an IT resource, and it is possible. If you can do that, then you are almost prepared towards that. Secondly, demands the inventory management. Somebody should at location in an organization should like, these are the number of machines that we have, these are the operating systems running on that, these are the memory space which is available. Okay, so this is earlier done using what is known as SAP and all. And once actually Microsoft reported a recovery of about 5 million rupees in their Ireland office because they implemented SAP, because now SAP can track all the machines which are available, and otherwise they used to just order additional machine and buy them because as and when the project they needed. Okay, so that kind of automation should be available. And it also needs a kind of an orchestration. What is that actually? If suppose a user asks for a particular CPU and particular thing, somebody in the organization must know that and allot that. That kind of a preparation is not done by many organizations as of today, and that is a preparation. So until you don't get that kind of orchestration and a kind of a preparation, it's unlikely to happen that way. So what is the first step? First step is to set up a right hardware and a network environment. It is possible to deploy everything on a single flat network. It is possible that when we demonstrate building a private cloud in organization, colleges and all, we can do it on a particular LAN, but it is not that way. See, it's something like building an airport in a small village where there is no enough business. Okay, so that's not a correct way. And at least 2 networks you need, and with a VLAN associativity, that means to build up a security for everybody. And you need 2 network cards, 2 NIC cards, and different IP ranges, because one for the outside world, one for the inside world. And there is also something called projects, because you don't want one project to get into the field of the other one. In order to do that, you can restrict only through IP addresses. VLAN tagging, probably people know, like see, if you do a kind of a tagging, then actually you can impose additional security measures. And this is needed to isolate between projects. So we mean by a project like any project that is done which uses resources from the organization. And equivalent example is actually any EC account is a project, any Google account is a project, in Google App Engine. So then once you do that, you have a minimum 2 servers. Okay, and one of the thing should be known about building private cloud is, see, computer like laptop, they are not considered to be good machines to create a private cloud. The people at technical level, people call PCs and laptops as access devices, not computers. Okay, if somebody says that I can use 2 laptops and create a private cloud, then he is actually insulting the term. Okay, so you need a particular server and a particular LAN with all these kind of facilities. It is possible to break, that means let this particular server has MySQL, I mean that kind is possible, but that is not a good way, because it must be automated and there should be a kind of a gap between the manager and this, who doesn't actually specify a particular machine for a particular job, but the option is still open. So with this, actually I will do a kind of a demonstration. Any specific question before that? So there are decisions that you have to make starting before making that. You have to choose your base operating system. Normally Linux is actually suggested because of its internal strengths, and decide hypervisor to create virtual images, because once you have a set of hardware, then once you have a base operating system, the next job you have to create is that it should be created unifiedly. So for that you need a virtualization. So that is the second thing that you do. Then you have to store images, and middleware you have to choose the GUI for your thing and set of iterators to create that one. And you have multiple options at every level. If you want a middleware, these are all open sources, and this is your hardware, and this is also some proprietary and something. So this was actually a presentation that I attended some time back, about 2 years back. Okay, here is a step-by-step procedure to build a private cloud using a Ubuntu server, and it took approximately 3 hours for us to build that one. So, but this procedure that you can follow, and anytime you can build a private cloud. So I show the procedure. It's taking time. Once you build a procedure, okay, it's okay. So once you build a project, then there are decisions to be made regarding like how to expose it to the external world, depending on the security measures. And default settings are not enough. There's some technical thing that you got to do, but it's a very straightforward job. And for every open source, there is a different way of setting it. The one I was showing is actually using Open Nebula, and you can also using Eucalyptus, that kind of a thing. And that demonstration is available here. And if you want to test virtualization before your travel to the private cloud, and here is one more demonstration. And all my demonstrations are directly available from my blog here. So this presentation and the demonstrations will always be available from the net all the time. So any specific questions or any technical expertise that you need? Yes, sir.
For the computer resources in your college, did you implement public cloud
Public cloud partly we have implemented, because see, there are certain information like marks card, admission and all, which parents and other world would like to see. Okay, so that we have done. Okay, see, we have a cloud and all our missions are almost on practically cloud, and there are certain information which we don't want public to be known, for example examination information and all, that is on private cloud. Okay, and there are information like I told you, admission results, attendance and all, that is on public cloud. Okay, so there's a kind of an exposure, and you know, technically such a combination is actually called hybrid cloud. Okay, that we have done.
Okay.
Most of my students have done a projects on cloud computing, and on a small scale we have done this. So any other questions? Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thanks, sir. Now, on behalf of UBM, I'd like to present a small memento as a token of appreciation.